Okay, and move on. Highways. Anything on highways, Malcolm? Anything?
From the tennis club towards the village hall, about 50 yards before the village hall, there is quite a deep pothole developing, and the road opposite the ladies' hairdressers is still pretty grim. That's breaking up quite badly along that section because of the amount of traffic using that side of the road.
What was the first one you mentioned, Malcolm? That was where?
About 50 yards before you get to the village hall. It's
in which
from
direction?
the tennis club. From the tennis club towards the village hall.
Okay.
About 50 yards before you reach the village hall, there's quite a deep pothole developing.
Okay. Made note of that. And the hairdressers.
Yeah, there was an email plus a photograph of severe flooding outside the old manor, which is opposite the new development down on Station Road. I understand it's a blocked drain, nothing's been done about it, and the flooding is literally along the line of the fence work of the old manor.
Okay. Brian?
I don't know whether this comes under highways, but in the Reen, which is to the coming down Church Lane, right, opposite Balcox Hall, in the grid there is one of these great big green containers for newspapers jammed against the grid of that new grid that was built for flood defences. So it was too far over for me to get at to pick it out. It's obviously been washed down there.
Okay.
It needs to be removed, really.
Okay. Well, perhaps Andy and I can go and have a look at that. Yeah. We'll see if we can get it out. Okay. Well,
You've got long arms.
We'll see what
the chairman can swim, apparently.
Okay. Anything else on highways? Anyone?
Sorry, just one more thing. On Ham Road, beyond the houses going towards Barrow, on the left, the state of the road on the left is absolutely disgraceful. It's full of mud and reed, and any car could get bogged down in that. Just beyond the houses on the left of Ham Road going towards Barrow. But I've mentioned this before many times.
You have. I've got a note of it, Brian, already on the ongoing issues list. And it's been reported probably at least 3 times to my knowledge.
Yeah.
So I don't quite know what we can do about that one, other than just keep reporting it.
Yeah, thank you.
And hope that some of it will stick, so to speak.
Is that all on highways? Okay. Village Green report for January. Who was doing the Village Green?
Cynthia.
I did. Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, I walked around the other day. It was fairly wet in the centre of the actual green itself. There was a big pool of water, but I walked around it in the left-hand corner at the top on the border of the green. There are a lot of leaves that have obviously been stacked up. I know it's wet and everything, but they obviously need to be removed at some point. There is a pile of them. And there was just a little bit of litter, and I had a good look. I just walked right round it. It was very, very wet. In actual fact, for anybody who wanted to go on the green, it would be too wet for them. And there was some litter just behind the what do you call it at the end with the football and the so forth.
The mugger.
Mugger, yes, sorry. Yes, a bit of litter around there. But I didn't see anything untoward, particularly. Obviously, the benches that need doing, but it was not too bad, really, apart from the fact that it was waterlogged. And I went into the toilets. They were okay. I couldn't see anything. One of the toilets had not been flushed in the ladies. But everything seems to be been working. I turned the taps on for hot warm water, and that worked. And both of them seem quite tidy. Apart from that, that was okay.
Did you notice whether the catch had been repaired in the male cubicle at all?
Oh, no, I didn't. In the
Okay.
cubicle itself.
Yeah. Did we advise?
I didn't know there was a catch that was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Can't remember his name now.
Paul
Dixon. Yeah, Paul's aware of it actually.
Okay.
He's had an
Right.
email from me on that. So hopefully, and he's doing some other jobs, Bob, isn't he? I believe he's catching up on some other things. Bob, he's got something to say on that, I think.
Yeah, I was just going to mention, Chairman, Paul, in terms of what he's done so far, you remember we asked him to secure the benches into the ground. That's been done. And the fence post that was at the back of the toilet block that needed repair and replacement, that's been done as well. So he's done some of the jobs. He hasn't finished all of them yet. And also there was a report that there was some missing light bulbs in the toilets. Those have been replaced as well.
Thank you. Brilliant. Okay. Car park, was that okay, Cynthia?
Yeah. Yes, the car park seemed okay. There were just 1-2 cars there, but it wasn't untidy, or I didn't see anything untoward there.
Thanks, Cynthia. Lovely.
Malcolm is down for the next month, actually in February. Are you okay with that, Malcolm?
Yes, that's no problem.
Okay, fine.
Thanks, Malcolm. Okay, play area report.
That was pre-circulated last week, which is when the item about the climbing frame came up. So we're going to discuss that later on, aren't we?
Yeah.
Yeah. Shall we move on and discuss that later on then, Owen?
Yeah. Okay.
Is everybody happy with that?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. I have nothing to report. Chairman's report. Clerk's report, Owen?
Just two things. I sent out a new set of standing orders, and I'm sure you've read them chapter and verse from beginning to end. There's a few changes, not that many, but we do need to comply and get them approved at the next meeting in March. So if there's any points you want to, raise on those, then please shout.
Andy?
Chairman, when we came together, I think 2 meetings ago, Owen points out that we didn't need a second on points given, and for debate. Under the new standing orders, it does specifically say in there that everything needs a second. Under 1B, rules of debate at meetings.
Yeah.
So they might have reinstated it, Owen.
They may have reinstated it, but the other thing is that what tends to happen with standing orders is that there's a sort of joint effort to put these things together. It comes from NAUC, SLCC, and other organisations, and I think sometimes they have different views. And at the end of the day, we've got to live with what we've got. So if that's what the standing order is saying, we approve that, and that's what we need to do. But they are subject to another revision during the coming year. So whether they've realised that that's perhaps something that shouldn't have been in there, I don't know. But we'll just have to watch this space, review the ones we've got, approve the ones we've got, and then change them if necessary. Bearing in mind, standing orders are not actually a requirement. We can change some parts of standing orders. The only ones that are absolutely required are those that are in bold print. But if you notice, some are in bold and some are not. The ones in bold we can't change, but the ones that are not in bold we can. So it's worth just noting the difference between the two.
Okay. Thank you.
And the only other thing to say is that you'll notice in the BKN now, I'm putting an ongoing issues report in there monthly now, so people can know what's going on about weight restrictions, speed limits, and all the other things that we're discussing, so that people don't get the impression that because we're not talking about it, we're not doing something about it. So they know now it's on the ongoing issues list, which is hopefully going to help communications.
Thank you. Okay. Police data report, speed watch, anything on that, Owen?
I sent that at the end of last week, the police report. Haven't got anything on speed watch at all. So I don't know what's happening there.
I haven't seen them at all out this winter anyway.
No. So no, the answer is I don't have anything on that at all.
Thank you. Bob, your report, district and county, please.
Thank you, Colin. It was just a quick mention on the speed watch. I think part of the reason we haven't seen them is because under the lockdown, they're not supposed to be meeting up as groups, and of course they can't operate it. There's a number of them doing it, so I think they are planning to do it again once they can. In terms of county, just a quick update on the sort of coronavirus figures. They're continuing now to fall in Sedgemoor and County. If you remember, we were around the sort of 500 mark, I think, last month. In County, we're now about 230, and Sedgemoor is actually down to about 210, so it is heading in the right direction. There have been fatalities across various villages, including our own, that people have died of coronavirus. So it is, and it's not just people who are elderly. So people do need to be very careful in terms of making sure they abide by the rules as best you can. The 5-year average, you remember I've been telling you about the ongoing sort of mortality rate, and it was below the 5-year average. It's now significantly above the 5-year average. So there has been a definite turnaround in those figures. But on the positive front, the vaccination program is going well. I'm sure some members will have been called to the Mulville Centre, the Barrow Medical Centre, which is the main area here for doing it. And it is going very well. They've had on days over 600 people being vaccinated in one day through that centre. So it is going remarkably well. And we've just been told today that across the Southwest as a whole, there's now 1 million people who've been vaccinated. So it is gathering momentum. In terms of one of the couple of things I'm going to mention, the census is due to come out this year. It's due in March. So that will be something that you should see coming through your doors for completion. In terms of the One Somerset, Stronger Somerset, we're waiting to hear from government now as to where we are with this. We're expecting an announcement from the Secretary of State sometime in the latter half of February as to the consultation program that he's going to carry out. It's expected to be an 8-week consultation. We have been told, obviously, because of coronavirus, it will be an online consultation, and we'll have to make sure that there are ways of getting public feedback for those who don't have access to that. But hopefully the parish council should be consulted as part of that. And bearing in mind, once they announce that, we'll then get to find out whether or not there will be elections in May or not for the county council, because that obviously will depend on the part of what's being consulted on. For the district, just a couple of things to mention. We've got a new chief executive. The previous chief executive has retired, and the new chief executive is a gentleman called Bob Brown, who was one of the corporate directors at Sedgemoor. So he's stepped up into that role. It was felt important that, particularly with this whole potential change of unitary, we needed to have somebody who was the figurehead for Sedgemoor to be the main there's a main contact for those consultations. So that's why we decided it was worth having a replacement, but it was felt it was worth doing someone from within, because they then know the authority, and to be honest, trying to recruit someone into a chief executive role for an authority that may not be here in 2 years' time might have been not straightforward either. And one final thing, just covering both organisations and back to coronavirus to some extent, both of the call centres, Sedgemoor Direct and the Somerset Direct, have been helping out with the vaccination programme. So if and when people are contacted, you might find, in fact, you're contacted by the local district council or the local county council, because they're helping the surgeries to actually make contact with the people who need vaccinations. There's about 500-600 staff across the authorities that are seconded to help with the rollout of the vaccine. And so again, it's just to mention, in both authorities, you might find reaction times are slightly slower than they would otherwise have been, simply because a lot of staff are not doing their day job. They're doing help with the coronavirus vaccine rollout. But happy to take any questions.
Sorry, go on, Brian. Go on.
No, just to vouch for the vaccination programme at Barrow. Judy and I went a couple of weeks ago, and we were there and back within the hour, and it was very, very well organised and pleasantly so too. Just to back up what you said.
Andy.
You made note that we've lost people in the village, a point that I didn't know. I don't know how. Is there at some point, or do we as the council want to show our sympathies to the families? And as this is now such a large event and probably one of the largest in our generation, and we've lost people to it, at some point, do we propose some form of memorial to those that we've lost in our village?
I think that's a very good point, because they're obviously talking about some memorial for Captain Tom. I think probably the best thing to do, I don't know what others feel, Nigel, Andrea, Warwick, but we just let things flow through, and then we'll take an assessment, hopefully at the end of this crisis, maybe later on in the year. But I think it's a good point, and we should record it and monitor it and bring it up at our future meetings for a discussion. That's my view. Anybody got a point? John?
No, nothing more to add otherwise, other than agreeing with you, and we let it rest until we revisit it properly.
Yeah, okay. Cynthia, I can't see you, or Malcolm.
No, I think that's a very good idea, but we have to wait for the moment to be able to do that.
Nigel?
Yeah, I agree with what you said there, Colin. I mean, look, it's a sensitive topic when people are lost in the village, and people do like to sort of like know, rather than hear secondhand that someone's passed away. But there's no easy way to do it. I mean, you could put names or whatever in some publication on the website, but then it's difficult to understand whether people want that. To hold a memorial now, I think would be premature. I think you're right. It's a case of sort of like letting it rest and see where we sort of like where the journey takes us.
Okay, right. A question, Bob. Some people, for instance, I went to the Mulberry Centre, but Pete Osborne went down to Taunton, and he got the date of his second vaccine. And I think John has got the date of his second vaccine. But if you go to the Mulberry Centre, you don't get this. They say they write to you. Who will be writing out to people? Is it your surgery? Will it be the county, Mulberry Centre? How will it work?
Yeah, so basically the reason there's the difference is because if you go through the Mulberry Centre, in effect it's through the local doctor's surgeries that it's being organised, and therefore it will be them that write out with the other date. The reason why, if you've gone to one of the other more regional ones, they've taken you out of, in effect, your local surgery, and therefore that's why they're giving them the date now, because they've got to be part of, you have to go back to where you had it done the first time. Okay. So hence why the difference in the process.
Yeah.
Colin?
Brian, yeah.
We were, no,
Colin,
just that we were told 12 weeks from the first.
Yes.
Yeah. Which is general, I think.
Yeah, I mean, it was superbly organised, really, really good, and fills you with a bit of confidence, I must admit. Okay.
Colin?
Yes?
Malcolm?
Yes, Malcolm.
I've had both of my jabs through the Burnham surgery, and they're tending to honour any appointments that are made for the second appointment because they feel they've already made the obligation.
Right. Yeah, and quite right, because if they change them, the administration work would be horrendous. So yeah, they've had to stick to it really. So I'm glad you've had your 2 injections, Malcolm. That's brilliant.
Yes, that was within 3 weeks of each other.
Yeah, brilliant.
Lucky.
Okay, thank you very much, Bob. Any other questions of Bob? Sorry, I haven't thrown it open to everybody. Everybody okay?
Yes.
Let's move on. Finance, Owen.
Very little actually. There is 2 statutory payments which will be going out as per usual, salary and GB Sports. Jason Mayo, of course, come to the end of his yearly contract payments now, so we'll start again on that one in April. We've got 2 additional payments, one to Mrs. Ward, printing costs £3.50 for contribution towards some of the printing she does for the notice boards, and Scribe Accounts financial software, which we'll be starting with on April the 1st. So just the 2 payments there. So I just
Propose
need
to pay.
Sorry,
Yes.
John?
Propose to pay.
Propose to pay. All those in agreement that it's paid?
Yes.
That's Owen.
That's all there is on
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, we're on to updated matters. The first one is the village shop premises valuation, etc., etc.
Can I just say something just before we start on this group? This is a new part of the agenda actually, because this is really updated issues as opposed to decisions required. So this is really where we've got things that are ongoing and where there just may be some comments to be made, but it's not really meant for major decision making. It's a separate area. It's really for reporting rather than decision making, but there will be occasions, I'm sure, when we need to slip a decision in there, but generally that's the idea of it. It's an updated process. So sorry, Colin.
No, you carry on, because I think you've got some news. Maybe
yes.
Bob has as well.
On the village shop, we have now received a valuation, which, as you know, we approved to go ahead with the valuation back in December and January. We have now got a valuation, and the value has been to the premises. At this stage, it would be inappropriate for me to share what that value is, simply because Caroline herself hasn't engaged with the valuer. So it would be wrong of me to say to you, this is the value that's been put on it, when she herself doesn't even know. But we will know very soon. I spoke to Caroline by email this afternoon, and what Caroline's agreed is that she will come online with your approval, with Colin and Bob and myself, and we will discuss with her how she wants to proceed with discussions. That's not necessarily decisions, but discussions to get to that point. So really, the idea of putting this on the agenda was just to say, are you happy that the 3 of us that have been talking to the steering group should continue to talk to Caroline and the steering group, probably separately, to find out how we move forward and what we need to bring to the council with decision making. Has anybody got any views on that?
Presumably the parish council will, as a whole, will vote on it.
Yes. Most definitely.
Yeah. I think this is just the opening salvo, for want of a better word, because if you remember, we did have an in-depth conversation as a parish council, and we addressed 12 items, which I emailed to you all, where we had concerns as regards the setup and our responsibilities, etc. But it's silly even pursuing those, or even with the shop committee, until Caroline has made her position clear. So I think an initial discussion with Caroline, then we can come back and decide as a parish council how we're going to play it and what we need to do.
What I can say is that the valuation is very much in line with the sorts of discussions we had previously. So it's, it's not a million miles away from where we were. That's sufficient to say, really.
Come on.
So can I just have your signal to say that you're happy with Owen, Bob, and myself to speak with Caroline? Could you just signify you're happy with that, please?
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay. So you'll set that meeting up, will you,
Yep,
Owen?
I'll set that up and let you and Bob know.
Okay.
Probably be the end of this week, early next week.
Okay, thank you. The SID, as regards SG, I am keeping the heat on them in terms of keeping the door open for them to come to meet with us. But obviously, with the lockdown, they've been unable to. So I have taken the opportunity of extending that period for a few months, leaving them still with the opportunity. But I have said to them that if we don't hear from you and have a meeting to resolve it, then that is our final notice, and we will have to instruct lawyers to commence proceedings to sort this mess out. So I am seeking to follow the rules of civil procedure where I can, and you'll have to leave that with the process that's in place, I'm afraid. There's very little I can do, or we can do. This guy didn't even respond to our email dated 14th of December, totally rejected it or didn't respond. So he's obviously in a difficult position with us. As regards the new one, Owen sent out a very interesting email today, and I'm not sure whether Nigel was there, but were you present when the Wescatec one was tested outside the Red Cow? I know Bob was there. Were you there?
No, I wasn't.
Okay. Well, the Wescatec one was brought to us by the guy who, if you remember, we told you about a chap who is engaged by the local councils to move these things around. He holds them, he charges the batteries, and he moves them from site to site. This particular Wescatec one is exceedingly easy to dismount and remount, and also to calibrate, and it's worthy of a further look at. But I think we did have a subgroup set up for this, didn't we, Owen?
Yeah, I think it was Brian, if I remember rightly, and I think John, you were part of that as well. Brian, John, and Colin, I thought it was, but I can't, to be honest with you, I think we need to re-establish it. It was a long time ago.
Long time ago, yeah.
Well, we can't, I don't think we can do nothing. We should be, I would like to see us get one, and I'd like to see it placed in the hands of if you like, an agency, for want of a better word, whereby we don't have to rely on one person. It is his job to move it around to the various places. So if Brian, John, and myself and anyone else would like to volunteer to become involved so that we can look at the different SIDs that Owen's email has identified. Nigel, would you join us?
Yes, definitely.
Okay.
One of the things that's a little bit interesting is that as you probably know, we now have a house in North Curry, just outside Taunton, and I've joined a speed watch consultation group, a SID consultation group, because they are themselves looking to purchase a SID, and they're going through exactly the same process as we're going, and they're at the same stage. So there may be some good feedback from both sources to each other as two councils, possibly,
Okay.
which will be useful.
Yeah. Interesting. Okay. Well, we'll start our work on that, and
Bob
probably.
wants to say something, I think.
a Zoom call, or I'll get some data together. But the Westcottet one was very good. Bob.
Colin was only going to say, I think originally I may have been on the group, but I'm happy to leave it to the ones you've got. Could we just make sure it is on the agenda for us to make a decision on it next time, so we can really get it motoring?
Okay, yeah.
March agenda.
Okay.
Okay, great.
Okie dokie. Next item, additional dog bin provision for a new unit. Where we've got to on that one.
This is an ongoing saga. Sedgemoor came out and looked at the site with Bob, and we thought that was possibly going to be the end of it. But the county still wanted us to obtain a license because of its proximity to highways. Now, I've sent all that is required to the county to get the license, but I haven't heard from them yet. And every time you send anything to that particular department, they say we won't get a response for 10 days. So every time you send anything to them at all, you've got to wait 10 days to get a reply. So of course it makes the whole process longer and longer and longer. I said to them in my last email that we would expect to get this matter concluded by no later than 20th of February. So hopefully they'll respond to that. We can get on and get the thing installed, because we're ready to install it, Bob, aren't we? So it's a question of just getting on with it, but we need the license.
Brian?
As regards the siting of it, we discussed this last time, and I still think it's the bad place to put it, because it's very near the junction of Church Lane, and I think it could be very dangerous. So I would be very much against it being sited there, but somewhere much safer. And also, I've been on the council nearly 20 years, and this subject comes up every time. And if you put 50 dog pins in the village, you still get people abusing them, or not using them rather. But it's just I think we need to catch somebody or catch a dog and photograph them and then report them to the police and get them fined. Because if you hit them in the pocket, that will certainly, and the news gets around, that will stop them, I think. I think that's the only way, because it's going to continue, and in 20 years' time, those of us that are still here will be discussing it again.
Nigel?
Do we have enough signs up about the consequence of this? Because I think originally, I know there was a sign outside my house that said dog fouling or whatever, £50 fine. But maybe we need to start sort of like making people aware of what the consequences are, because currently the only consequence I can hear is people chatting on media saying that they'll post it through people's letterbox. I mean,
Bob did give us some Sedgemoor District Council signs at some stage. Do you remember, Bob? And it may well be that we should have a campaign of putting those up in strategic places all through the village.
They don't mention a fine, do they? Don't think, do they?
Yeah.
I beg your pardon.
We are being as proactive as we can with the dog bins and even people putting, poop bags outside their garden gates in bottles for them to help themselves. I don't know what more we can do.
Last week there was a pile opposite the village, the Methodist Hall, within 50 yards of the dog bin. There we are.
Andy?
I'm a dog owner, so I sit in that, and I'm very conscious about what's being said here. Why don't we sit down and just plan a campaign, and even encourage members of the public to report in individuals to the police and do some form of how far can we go with name and shame, GDPR. But let's have a look at doing a positive campaign for a sustained period, and get ourselves as a name of supporting our parishioners with this issue, because it's on. Everybody talks about it. I know joggers that say, if you see me stepping into the road, it's because I'm dodging it. And they're from around here. So I think we need a sustained campaign, not just a few signs. Use media, use the public, and as has been said earlier by Brian, let's sue somebody.
Bob, are you able to get some of those little signs? They were quite effective.
Yeah, I can certainly ask for some more. I did, in fact, get a number of extra ones a little while ago when there was a group of locals who did the sort of bottles with the bags in that Nigel mentioned, and I supplied a number to them so that they actually put them up around where they were doing it. So because they're stick-on signs basically that can go on fence posts and road signs. The difficulty with enforcement obviously is literally someone's got to be caught in the act to prove that that's what was the case. There are only 2 dog wardens covering the whole of Sedgemoor, so the likelihood of them catching is remote. We can report it to them and they will come out periodically, but again, it is that issue of catching people doing it. And certainly the feedback I'm getting from local residents is they think a lot of the problem is actually nighttime dog walkers who seem to be causing some of the biggest problem, that they just don't bother at night. The advantage, I think, with the bin, at least, is there are some very responsible dog owners who not only pick up their own dog's mess, but pick up other people's as well. So at least the bins give them the opportunity to get rid of it without having to take it back to their own homes.
Warwick.
I mean, I think an idea on a more proactive side is that everyone has smartphones nowadays. All it takes is someone to take a picture of whoever the offending person is, post it on Brent Knoll next door, and name and shame. That's the quickest way of nipping this in the bud, because it's going to be the same people over and over again. If they're lazy enough not to pick up their dog mess, they're not going to pick it up at all. I mean, I think we might as well use our own Brent Knoll next door thing as a way of naming and shaming people. Get away with it.
Yeah, Andy?
I agree completely with Warwick on that. And maybe what we've got to do is just publish that that's what we're going to do and that's what we want to do as a council initiative.
Just be very, very careful.
Was only going to say, I wonder if Owen would like to comment from a legal point of view as to what you can and can't do in terms of publicising people.
I can tell you, the sympathy that people have with Warwick and Andy is amazing. But actually, we wouldn't be allowed to do it as a council. If you want to do it as an individual resident, that's not part of this council at all. But for the council to sanction that would be an absolute no-no. We just couldn't do it.
I completely agree, because you're authorising GDPR breaches. But what Warwick's saying is the public will. What we've got to do, I think, is it's like the alcohol. Most of us remember when we were teenagers, drinking and driving was not quite the issue that it is today. Today, it's got the same legal bindings, but now it's socially unacceptable, and quite rightly. We need to make this in our village socially unacceptable. And to do that, you've got to continually campaign and get the public behind us. And if they do what Warwick does, then that's an addition to that. But certainly the council need to make it highlighted that if we find you, we will prosecute you. And when you're talking about the signage around the village, I go around the village walking the dog, and a lot of that is now falling down, in disrepair, out the way. So I'm just saying, do we revitalise this as a campaign, as opposed to just individual actions?
Could I suggest that then we do get something out on the Brent Knoll website, but something that is less controversial, but advisory, for want of a better word, or informative, to say that we are very much aware of this, and we would like people to take social responsibility for their dogs, or words to that effect. I can't manufacture words just like that, but I do think we should post something to show that we are taking it seriously, and ask. Well, it could well be that out of this may spring some dog watch people, but that's the only thing I think we can do. Would you say that's right, Owen, or wrong?
Yeah, I think so. I think we can just go, we can do what we can do legally, which is draw people's attention to it and tell them how antisocial they are. But I think when it comes down to anything more than that, I think we're a bit limited, frankly. And I think you're right. If we put something in the BKN, I think at least we can be seen to be doing something as a council. That's the important thing. We're trying to do something.
Nigel?
Yeah, I mean, look, when you look on that on the media, it's not just Brent Knoll that's suffering this, and maybe it's because of the pandemic and people are taking their dogs out more than they used to. But is there any lessons we can learn from other parish councils, Owen?
Well, I can go onto my Facebook Clerks page and find out whether any other councils up and down the land have got any singularly good ideas.
Yeah.
And then hopefully they will come up with some ideas, because they always come up with ideas. It may not be ones that we want necessarily to indulge in, but at least we can get the information. And I certainly have to do that.
Okay, Brian?
Oh, well, people in other places, like Burnham, for instance, have been fined. And I wonder how that operated. Were they reported by the public? Were they seen by the police? Were they photographed? And so on. And they've been fined £50 or whatever.
Burnham,
Wondered how it worked. Sorry?
Burnham Town Council have got a ranger.
Yeah.
So obviously he's out and about all the time. So maybe...
But if one person in Brent Knoll gets caught and fined, the news will soon get around the village.
Okay. It looks as if this isn't one we can sort of sign off. So could we say that Owen will report what he finds from other on his council's website, Clark's website, and then probably all of us probably think of some form of communication that we can get out of our views ready for next time. I don't think we're going to do it now unless you want to, unless say Andy and Owen and anyone else would club together and get something written up that would be appropriate and then circulate to us in the interim.
Do that, certainly.
Are you happy to do that, Andy? Yeah. Okay. So, Owen, will you speak with Andy, and then
Andy, and we'll fix up a time to Zoom somewhere,
and then we'll address it again at our next meeting.
Okay,
Yeah,
that's fine.
Okay.
But just one other thing, just on the point that Brian made about the positioning of dog bin. The fact is, Brian, we've already applied for a license now, so we don't have the opportunity to change what we've already done. Whether we might in the future consider another one in another place, that's another option, of course.
Okay. Thank you. Gosh, that's taken some time. Item D, weight restrictions. Burton Row, Owen.
Nothing. That's just an ongoing issue for keeping it on the boiling pot, so to speak.
Okay, David.
I think since the article in the Brent Knoll News in the parish council bit came out, there's quite a lot of feeling that we haven't heard about yet from businesses in the village that have deliveries with big vehicles and use big vehicles. And I think we're going to hear about it. And we need to clarify. I think that what we said was weight restriction except for access, but we never actually in the Brent Knoll News that was never said. And I think there's some very concerned people, but obviously I suppose I hear it more because I've got big stuff and other people have, and they're concerned that we're going to affect their businesses when we're not. We're trying to sort of cut through traffic as opposed to cut all heavy traffic. So I think we probably need to clarify that somehow.
I'll clarify that with the next update that I put in there. I'll make sure that's clarified.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's ideal because I've heard about it a lot since the Brent Knoll news came out, and I think that we might hear about it a lot more if we don't say something.
Okay, I'll deal with that.
Thanks,
Ideal,
David.
thank you.
Thank you. 20-mile-an-hour limit near the village school. Any news on?
No, I don't think so, Bob, is there? No?
Okay. Moving on, item F. This is a correspondence from Tony Hill, if you remember, where he took photographs of various signs in the village and road conditions. I thought that we had agreed that Owen would take this up with highways, but I'm not sure where we are with it.
It's work in progress. The communication has started, but I've got to cut and paste a few photographs and do a bit of finalising on it. But it'll almost be ready to go early next week.
Okay, and then
I think.
oh, sorry, Bob. Go on, Bob.
Yeah, just to let I mentioned to Owen as well that spoke to Highways about the bottom of Hill Lane area. They are hoping that they're going to replace. You remember we said there was a missing sign which used to say "to the knoll" via the church. They're going to try and replace that and straighten the post that it was on, so that one should be tidied. Sedgemoor have said they'll replace the missing Hill Lane sign, which is on the opposite side of the road from that. You can see the frame in the hedge at the moment, but there's no actual nameplate. So they're going to try and replace that. And also the one that was down opposite Westcroft Cider, they have done the repair to the bank. They put the 30-mile-an-hour sign upright, and they say they're going to monitor the bank to make sure it's not still moving any further. So some of them are already, some of them have been done, some of them are underway as well.
Okay.
Thank you. Brilliant. That's good. Okay. Are there any other points on Tony Hill's letter? And we'll just let
working on it and getting it off to the county.
yeah.
Have you responded to him?
Sorry?
Have you responded to him to thank him?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
If highways want to meet at all, Owen, I'm happy to meet them and go round if they want to. Okay.
Fine. That's great. Okay. Super.
Okay. Next item is item G, which I have put in my interest. So I'll
put you in the waiting room, Colin. Is that all right?
Please. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. We haven't got a chairman. Brian, would you like to chair this because you chaired the original discussions on this?
I'll be absolutely delighted. Right, land for sale by Tender Church Lane, and we want to know what the current status of the land is and what has happened at the tendering process.
Let me
so over to you, Owen.
I'll just explain what happened. As you know, we put a tender in the sum of £45,000, which is what we agreed at the last meeting on the 20th of January. We did learn that there was at least what we appeared to be 4 or 5 other tenders going in on that piece of land. It obviously went to the wire on the end of last week, actually. And it was very clear that we were significantly beaten. We don't know by how much, but the comment I had from the agents, and indeed intimated from the diocese, was that the bid was significantly over our bid. And so we weren't told who the bidder was, and we were not told the value of that bid, of the successful bidder.
We still don't know.
That's where we are at.
We still don't know. Is that right?
We don't. Nothing has come our way officially.
Right.
No. And
unofficially.
Sorry.
What about unofficially?
No, nothing. Nothing has been told to us at the moment. We can surmise all we like, but at the end of the day, until the successful bidder has declared, we can do nothing about it. And so it's up to the bidder And let's face it, you know, will become available. That information is going to become available sooner rather than later. We will then know. The fact of the matter is that whatever we say and whatever we do, and I, as you know, I was quite strong with the diocese on this matter, and in fact, I drafted a letter now on the basis that the council might want to go back to the diocese on, you know, some of their reasoning, just in case you decided that's the action you want to take. It's a matter for you whether you want to follow it up and go back to the diocese, or whether you're happy just to let it rest. And
Warwick?
It is.
I was seriously miffed about the outcome, and I was in the throes of writing quite a snotogram to Owen, expressing my views of to the tune of, because I did my own rule of thumb calculations, made it about 50 grand that we gave the church in the last 10 years plus
15
for cutting their blooming grass. And personally, at the end of the day, if they can overlook all of that, well, they're going to have to find the money from somewhere else, because I don't see why we should support the diocese in cutting their bloody grass if they can't give us, you know, fair whack at purchasing the land.
Andy?
In support of Warwick, did I read that we're probably one of very few councils that actually carry out that task on behalf of any diocese?
That's right. That's right. We don't have to do it. There's no obligation whatsoever. In fact, quite the opposite.
There is something called what is known as the 1894 Act, and that Act still stands in place, which says that parish council should not support the local church. Now, there has been lots of council discussion on this over the country, and there have been one or two councils that have tried to get around it in different ways. And of course, we've always gone along with the basis of, well, actually it's a community thing and not a legal thing. In other words, we're doing it for the benefit of the community. Bob's got something to say.
Bob? Bob?
Was only going to say, like everyone else, I was obviously disappointed. But I mean, I think in terms of where we are with this, we did have the support of St Michael's Church. We did have the support of the PCC. It's not the local church that's made that decision. It's the diocese that made the decision. So I mean, I think we have to be a little bit careful. But I do think we do need to make sure the village know what's happened, and I think we should be expressing our disappointment, at least to the diocese, that they haven't taken into account the community backing of what we were trying to achieve. But I think we do need to be a little bit careful that it is the diocese that made that decision, not our own church. They were very supportive, and equally, we don't want to look as if because we didn't get our way on the glebe land, we're now going to throw our toys out the pram and pull every bit of support that we give to the church. So I mean, I think we need to discuss that when we come around to the budget time. But I do think we do need to be careful that it's that we're framing that where our anger is to the right people and not other people who might get caught as collateral damage.
John?
I agree with what Bob has said. The fact of the matter is, of course, it's a done deal, and there's very little that anybody can do about it. However, I think that the diocese have been less than incredibly disappointing. Although it won't make any difference at all, I do think we should make a strong representation to the diocesan groups, whoever they are, in the fact that they have not supported the parish and parish facilities. We can go on about this for a long time, but I do think we should make our views known and possibly even publicly.
I think if I may say my piece, I think if we withdrew our support, it would put us in a very bad light, I think, with the village.
Yes, I agree.
Myself.
I agree.
And I think Bob's, I mean, I was angry or disappointed that we didn't get it, but the person who has bought the land, if he was to be, or she was to be person who kept the land as it was for the village, then we've got no axe to grind, have we? Really? But Warwick?
Well, the thing is, at the end of the day, if the village knew how much money the parish council gave to the local church to actually cut the grass in 15 years, and I'm sure you could actually cause quite an outrage in the village to do with the fact is that the diocese basically has stuck the 2 V's up to the local church because they don't care. It's all about money. At the end of the day, if we withdrew that £56,000 over the last 15 years, then they would have been strapped for cash a hell of a lot sooner. So it swings in roundabout. Yeah, we can voice our opinions publicly, and I think we should. And I think we should do it in such a way that if you create enough outrage in the village, they're always going to go back via the church, and you're always going to get more of the parishioners that are going to become very outspoken towards certain members further up the chain in the church. I agree with John that technically it is a done deal, but at the end of the day, whoever has acquired the land, they could easily turn around and say, I'm just buying the land and we're just going to leave it as it is. But that still doesn't stop them from applying for outline planning permission for it and then selling it off in a couple of years' time, or developing it or anything like that. There's no guarantees. There's no guarantees in life for anything. So I was quite put out when I actually did the numbers of actually how much money the parish council have contributed to the local church over the years. And it's so all of that financial support that wouldn't have stopped, it would have still been kept going, hasn't been taken into consideration in any of this.
No.
Andrea?
I'd like to think that the neighbours actually bought it for the village.
That would be a nice situation.
That would be a wonderful gesture.
I think emotions are running pretty high at the moment over it, and I think it might be an idea for us to think about it for the next month, and then come up and put it on the agenda next month and draw up what our response is going to be to the public and to the church, or to the diocese.
There's 2 issues. First of all, do we, whatever we want, how we want to respond to the diocese, and then there's what we put on the public arena. In other words, do you want to put something on Burnham.com or Nextdoor or whatever? Well, however we do it, we need to decide that basically how far we want to go in terms of publicising.
I thought the response from the diocese was typical, dotting the I's and crossing the T's. They're trying to wash their hands of it, and there's no personal thing in it. We just want as much money as we can rinse out of somebody for the land. End of story.
And they used the fact that they are now a charity, that they're legally obliged to go for the highest bid. But actually, when you start really delving down into charity rules and church diocese stuff, there is plenty of opportunities there they could have used to overcome it. There are.
Andy? Sorry. Andy?
Just a point. The church is the largest landowner in the UK.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's commercially used to selling land to construction industry. So these are not errors on their behalf. Right. Secondly, the issue that I think we have as a council is the land has now slipped from our control. So that is a done deal. John's absolutely right. But there are other parcels of land around us that will come up that the church own and individuals own, and that we as a council have got to be assured of our processes to secure that land, or we will keep losing it to individuals or commercial enterprises. Now, it's gone into individual hands or an enterprise's hands, I don't know. But what it means is we've got no control on that land. So we have no say. So it might be that they do build on it. It might be that they have bought it for the village, as Andrea and all of us wish they have. But that those individuals, that company will not be there in 5-10 years time, and that desire has gone with those individuals or that company. So I think really what we've got to do as a council is sit back and say, how did we lose this?
Yeah.
And where are we prepared to go the next time so we don't lose it?
Yeah.
Well, I would suggest to round this off is that we have a good think about it, each of us, and to draw up ideas for the next meeting as to how we respond to the diocese, and also what do we say to the village, and put out our ideas really clearly, and try and knock it on the head if we can.
Why are we waiting a month?
Yes, exactly.
Gives us a time to
Well, I rather agree. Why are we waiting a month? I mean, I think we know what we ought to say.
Would you like me to send you a copy, and you can tear it to bits, tear it to shreds? If you would like me to send you a copy of the letter I have already pre-written as a result of this decision, and for you to have a look at it, and I'm very happy for anybody to scrub things out, alter things, whatever, but this is a starting point.
Absolutely.
yeah,
Yes,
If you'd like me to send that to you, I will send it to you.
that'd be fine.
I think in a month's time, our feelings would be diluted, and we need to actually share our disappointment. There were a lot of people that were behind us in the village that wanted us to go and bid, and we bid way over what the asking price was, double and some. So we really had put a brilliant tender together for ourselves, and to be, disappointed because there was an awful lot more than the £45,000 that we were offering. And I think that if we sit on it for a month,
you'll lose them.
Yeah, we'll lose
the momentum.
Yes, I agree.
I think you'll have to strike while the iron's hot, and while people are thinking about it.
John?
And,
John?
Owen has obviously given a certain amount of thought. He's got a letter to write, and he's really got to make two decisions. One is to have a look at the letter. That will, of course, go to the diocese. Do we want to put it into the public domain? And if so, how? Do we want to put it in the Brent Knoll News as publicity in the village? And do we want to up it perhaps to burnhamondsea.com? I mean, the letter is one thing, putting in the public domain is another.
Bob?
I was only going to say what others have now said, in that I think we do need to do it now, because I don't know about others, but I've certainly had a number of people asking me what's happened with it. They knew we'd publicised the fact we were going to try and go for it. People had heard that some other bidders hadn't got it, and I was being asked, did you get it as the parish council? And the only thing I've said is, no, we didn't get it. But I do think we need to get the information out there quickly, because there are a lot of people in the village who want to know what's happened with it. And I tend to agree with John that, I mean, I don't think it's just the Brent Knoll News. I do think we've got to be looking at whether it's burnhamondsea.com or whether it's the next door. We need to get the information out more quickly.
So to make this a newsworthy item from this meeting,
So we have to need two things. Owen to let us see a letter to the diocese, and the second thing is a notice to the public.
Yes.
Bob, would you like to draw up a proposal for this evening?
I'm happy to go with the proposal that John's just made. I mean, I think Owen's got the basis of the letter, and Owen, again, you heard the issues that have been raised. You know what the points are. So I think if you can draft it, get it round to us, as we've done before with these press releases, we can get it round by the end of the week.
Basically, it should go, in my view, it should go to burnham.com, and it should go on next door. Two key bits of publicity there. Once you've approved it as a group, and I say a group because I've got a separate list for the people that are involved in this process, I will send it out to you and make sure that you approve both bits. And if you do, or if you want to make any changes, I won't be at all offended. Happy to scribe out bits, as I say. If you feel you want to go a different way, That's fine.
In support of the new standing orders, I'll second Bob's proposal.
Anybody else got any other comment to make?
The sooner we do it, the better.
All those in favour?
Yes.
Okay, that's fine.
Anyone against? Right.
Job done.
Thank you.
I'll bring. I think Malcolm's not here at the moment, is he?
No, he's not.
I've
Lost
met-
David on the route as well.
Right.
No.
Hello, Colin. You're back again.
Hi.
I think Malcolm disappeared as well, actually.
Oh, right.
Yes, I had to log off, and I took about a quarter of an hour to get readmitted.
No, right. Anyway, we're all back now.
Okay. Okay. The next item then is correspondence, email from a person in Crooked Lane regarding dog waste. But I think we've addressed that, haven't we? Really?
I think we've
We
sort of
stepped
done
on it quite well.
really.
I think
Sorry?
we stepped on it quite well.
Sorry, John.
We stepped on it quite well.
Got it right, quite well. Yes. Well done, John.
Okay. Matters for decision. Defibrillator installation proposal, pre-circulated paper. Have you all had that paper?
You'll know the background to this, of course, is that when I started my Silka course, in the first section, one of the things that we had to do to our assessor is to produce a report on a topical subject, do the research on it and present it to the council, which is what I've done here. And I thought defibrillator was a good topic. And everything is in that document, really. Locations, purchase versus rental, volunteer resources, training. And really, having read it, it's a matter for whether you think that we should revisit it again. I don't think anybody's looking for a decision this evening, but do we start revisiting the process again, with a view to using the telephone kiosk specifically, because I think that's still the best place, actually, the only place really, to be honest. And just your views really on my very, very comprehensive report.
Yes. Well, any comments on this one?
Look at Bob laughing.
Warwick.
My telephone kiosk.
Yeah.
We'll have the defib in our front garden.
Right. Maybe you can roll it.
Bob.
Yeah, I mean, having read sort of Owen's report, I think it makes a lot of sense to revisit this. The one thing, I mean, I hadn't come across this idea of the rental one, which doesn't, when you compare the capital costs and the rental costs, the rental doesn't seem that bad actually, particularly when you're not having to then replace it in a number of years' time. So I think we should relook at it. I'd like a little bit more information about what the issue is with the 12 volunteers, because I don't know that necessarily is going to be critical, as long as we've got the thing there and people can use it and get the instructions. But I mean, yeah, I'm certainly very much in favour of us looking at it again seriously.
It's about 4 years since we last discussed it, apparently.
No.
Quite a long time.
I will stay right out of this one.
And me.
Yeah, I think the 12 volunteers, I think, was really almost a sort of a bit of a throwaway, really. I don't think it was really intended it should be 12 necessarily. But I think what they were saying in the research I did was that it should be people other than councillors.
Okay.
You must get the community involved, because without the community involved, it ain't going to work.
Well, they have to put it in a community shop then. Because when everyone has heart failure and the prices in there, they can use it to revive them.
But I do think I do think the rental route is a good route, simply because this company just simply take the whole thing and look after it. They change the batteries, they do the training, they make sure it's maintained correctly. If it's upgraded, they upgrade it free of charge. So as a new one comes out, they do the upgrade. So it's basically leasing it, really, with all the benefits of leasing.
This was one of the reasons why we took a second decision to not to go ahead, wasn't it? Because we were concerned about maintenance, etc. I think as regards, we could always do some, we could offer a training session in the village hall for people if they were worried about it, to make them aware of it and what it actually does, and so they've got some prior knowledge, because there's loads of instruction embedded in the apparatus anyway. I personally would like to do it, but I'm not going down that route again.
To give you an example, in which is the only other village I can quote, because it's the only other village I know, in North Curry, it's been used 5 times in the last 12 months. Now, that's in a village about the same size as Brent Knoll. The population's about the same.
Do we know what East Brent's usage has been at all?
I think that is more than that, actually.
Really?
I think East Brent's more than 5, but I would need to check that.
Because they've got 2, haven't they?
Yes.
One at the surgery and one in Rooksbridge. Rooksbridge. Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm happy to put it on the ongoing list.
Right.
And when I do my BKN thing, I'll put it on there and really ask the community, say we need community engagement.
So are councillors happy that we carry this one forward now? Yes. Okay, there you got your answer. And sorry, Andrew, did you want to say something, or you just voted? Thank you. Okay, that's good. Good. You've been circulated with a note from Owen about the climbing frame, which has sort of been condemned and is in need of either repair or replacement. I'm told this piece of kit is probably 20 years old or more, and we may be throwing good money after bad, and it may be an opportunity to use the monies that we have got to improve the look of the village green with some more modern equipment. But I don't know what people feel about this. Any idea? Nigel?
I'm all in favour in replacing, improving the village green, something that we can control. We talk a lot on these meetings about sort of like spending money in other areas, but for me, this is a focal point for the village, so I would go that way.
Andrea?
Yeah, I have to agree with Nigel, actually, is that over the time that you and I, Colin, have been on the council, we've seen this, be repaired, and it's been repainted and rejuvenated and new mats put down. So we have spent money, but it would be nice now to actually say, let's go forward and spend some money and to make some real significant improvements. With the mugger, we did that. That must be 5 years ago, mustn't it?
Probably, yeah. And that roundabout thing we put in, it must be 6 years old, probably.
Yeah.
John, sorry.
Suggest we have a small group to consider the matter and come up with recommendations.
Bob?
I think I'm happy to go with what John's just said. I mean, I think the one thing we just need to bear in mind is if we are replacing a piece of kit of that size, you're talking tens of thousands of pounds.
Yep.
It's not going to be cheap. So we'll have to work out how we're going to fund it.
Well, we were going to spend 40,000 on a piece of land, so.
But we were going to have to get authorization to borrow that. So again, council will need to take into account how they want to raise that funding.
Okay, so can we set up a subgroup then? Who would be prepared to look at the subgroup for this new kit? Brian? John?
I've got some catalogues still, I think, from some of these apparatus.
Nigel?
So who have we got? Nigel, Brian.
Brian?
Yeah, I'd say
Brian, John, Nigel. I'm happy to help. Yeah, that's 4 of us. That should be enough.
Yeah.
So we'll get a little Zoom call together and see where we go. Okay, brilliant. Thank you. That's good news. A resolution to approve R. Young as internal auditor. Owen, do you want to?
Basically, Richard Young is a local clerk who's always done our audit. We need a resolution to approve to satisfy the auditor's requirements. So really, I'm asking, are you happy for Richard to continue to do it, basically?
Are you happy with him?
I'm happy with him. Richard knows exactly what he's doing, so I have no problem with Richard at all.
All those in favour?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Malcolm. Resolution to approve the 2021 meeting dates. You've had a schedule. Owen, is it possible that we could add to these dates the people who are responsible for the village green? So it's all in one.
Yeah, I'll do the whole thing. Yeah. I'll reissue the whole thing, including the rota as well.
Yeah. So
can one be posted to me, Owen?
Yes, certainly it can, Malcolm. Yes.
Yeah. So
thank you.
With your permission then, councillors, can we adopt this list and then instruct Owen to put in the responsibility for the village green so that we all have a copy of it? Are you all happy with that? Can you
yes.
Okay.
Obviously, most of them will be virtual as far as we know until the halfway point of the year. After that, who knows?
Okay. Website completion access for disabled users. Now, you and I chat about this. Do you want to sort of fill us in?
Yeah, let me just sort of explain. We had our website upgraded last year, and actually it now complies to have the disability access statement put on there, which Dave McMillan has done all that work for us. The one thing it doesn't include at the moment is the documents, because the documents have to be read by for a blind person by a screenwriter. And the way that we write our minutes, and we're not the only ones, most councils do, we put things like bold and underline and all sorts of funny things on there, colour, and it doesn't come out very well on a screenwriter. To somebody looking at it who's blind, it's very laborious reading, because the screenwriter simply says, this is underlined, this is in green, this is in italics. So you've got to try and cut all of that out, and you have to put special headers and footers. Now, I've been to 2 training sessions, and I'm still none the wiser. It's very difficult. Tony J of Wemden and Sally Diaz have really spent some time on this. And we had a little local clerks group a few weeks ago. And Sally has offered her services to go back and do every council document, policies, minutes. Agendas don't matter because only the latest one needs to be on there. But she's agreed to go back and do all of them from 2018 for any council who wants to use her services. So several of us have said, yes, do it. And I'm coming to this council to say, are you happy that she does it for us and gets us right up to date? And I can probably, once I've got all those documents done up to date, I can probably work on the latest one to a degree where it's compliant. What I wouldn't want to do is try and do effectively 2 years worth. Not only would it take a huge amount of time, but I just don't think it would be productive time. So we're all saying the same. Barrow, East Brent, Lymsham, we're all going to use the services of Sally to do this for us. Now, Sally's already got 3 councils. I don't know where she's going to find the time to do all this stuff, but she seems to be quite happy to do it.
Nigel,
Until we've done it, we're not compliant. We're not
Nigel.
compliant.
Owen, is this just for documents, or are we talking about the website?
No, the website's okay.
Okay, cool.
Dave's done all that. It's basically the documents that we put on there.
I had a long conversation with Owen about this, and my opinion was that we let someone bring this all up to date for us, and then we seek to move on.
Yeah.
Because if we don't, we're just going to get way behind, and the expenditure. It's a bit like, with no disrespect to Nigel, in our health and safety, we subcontracted or we've gone out to someone that Nigel is going to. Likewise, we use these to bring us up to date, and we farm it out. Bob?
Can I just ask how much she's offering to do this for?
£300.
Right.
Can I propose then that we allocate the £300 in order to update the website in accordance?
Basically, she charges £14 an hour, and she's worked it out. The amount of time it takes her to do it would cost about £300 for a typical council. In actual fact, there's a bit more working hours because our minutes are longer. Some councils have only got 2 pages of minutes. We've got 6 on most of ours, 5 and 6, because I just like writing. So yeah, I just need basically the council approval, and we can get on and get our website compliant.
And I propose then that we spend the sum of £300 to get our website updated in accordance with Owen's requirements and our own requirements.
Yes, I'd second that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Malcolm, Colin and Malcolm. Okay.
Thank you. Okay. Last item. Well, we've decided.
Sorry, Colin. Can I just ask just one thing for Owen? On the website with the gallery, I put in an up-to-date profile, but couldn't find it. It used to be next to the photographs, didn't it? How do you get to the profile?
Which profile do you mean, Brian?
No, I sent it in along with a new photograph. Sorry?
Yeah, if you go into the council page,
Yeah.
and if you just go into the council, you'll find it within there.
Yeah, I went there, but anyway, I couldn't find it.
Well,
I'll try again. Sorry to
that's okay.
take up time.
I'll have a quick look.
Thanks, Colin.
While you're talking, I'll have a quick look.
Okay. Right. Matters of reports. Got something to say, John?
Yes, I have. I think we need to add 2 agenda items to our next committee meeting. They're slightly linked. We have talked around these subjects. First of all, it has been suggested that as a village we have some sort of odd job man who would do work around the village, whether it's the SID or whether it's cleaning road signs or any other small items. We've not pursued it. We ought to put an advertisement out in some way to encourage somebody to come and volunteer at a price. And the second thing is we need to have a proper programme for the use of the flags in the village, a proper calendar for it, and a proper flag master.
Okay, those are 2 items for the next meeting, John. Thank you. David, have you got any matters of report? David?
No, I've got nothing.
Okay, thank you. Brian?
No.
Andy? No. Nigel?
No.
Andrea and Warwick?
Nothing.
No, nothing.
Cynthia?
No, I haven't got anything.
Malcolm?
No, nothing from me.
And lastly, Bob?
No, nothing to report other than just to mention to Brian, you click on your name and that's when your profile comes up.
Thank you.
Okay. Strangely enough, my 2 items were very much aligned with John's, so they're going to be dealt with next meeting. So that's great. Okay, everyone. Thank you all very much. Good meeting and a constructive one. Thanks for all your input, and we'll see you. What's the date of the next one? 3rd of March.
The 3rd of March.
Let's meet beforehand.
Good.
Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye for now.